I found the bone under my bed. That's how it all started. It wasn't big, maybe the size of a child's finger, and smooth, like it had been handled a lot. I didn't know how it got there. I was staying at the palace, sent by my father to train under the Queen Mother as a seamstress. My family needed the money, and she was known for rewarding those who served her well. But the Queen Mother wasn't kind. She had this sharp, cutting voice and eyes that seemed to dig into your soul. Her daughters, Oluchi and Ngozi, weren't any better. They were beautiful, yes, but their smiles were cold, like they were always planning something cruel. The bone unsettled me, but I didn't tell anyone. Who would I even tell? The Queen Mother had eyes and ears everywhere. I brushed it off, thinking it might have been left behind by one of the palace cats. Then the whispering started. Late at night, when I was supposed to be asleep, I'd hear soft voices in the hallway. I couldn't make out the words, but the sound chilled me. It wasn't the kind of whispering that people do when they don't want to wake someone. It was wrong. Like they were saying things no one should hear. One night, I worked up the courage to peek through the crack in my door. What I saw still haunts me. The Queen Mother and her daughters were kneeling on the ground, facing a small clay pot. Smoke rose from it, and I swear I saw something move in the smoke, something that wasn't human. They were chanting, their voices low and rhythmic, but it didn't sound like any prayer I knew. The next day, I tried to act normal. But I couldn't stop thinking about what I saw. And then something happened that made everything worse. One of the palace servants, a young boy named Ifani, disappeared. He was kind, always smiling, always helping me carry the heavy fabrics. When I asked where he was, everyone avoided my eyes. That night, the whispering came back. This time, I didn't peek. I didn't want to see. But the next morning, I found another bone. This one was bigger. It was wrapped in a piece of cloth under my pillow. My hands shook as I picked it up. The cloth had tiny drops of dried blood on it. I wanted to leave, but the palace gates were guarded, and I knew I couldn't just walk out. Instead, I decided to watch. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew something terrible was happening. A few nights later, I heard the whispering again, but this time it was louder. It was coming from the courtyard. I crept out of my room and followed the sound. The Queen Mother and her daughters were there, standing around the fire. There was something in the flames, a shape, struggling. I almost screamed when I realized what it was. It was Ifani, or what was left of him. His body was half burned, and his mouth was open, but no sound came out. The Queen Mother was holding something, a staff, maybe. It glowed faintly in the firelight. "You serve us now," she said, her voice cold and final. I couldn't move. My body felt like it was made of stone. I don't know how long I stood there, but at some point, I must have made a sound. Oluchi's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide and wild. "She's watching," she screamed. I ran. I don't know how I managed to get away, but I ran and ran until I was out of the palace and into the forest. I didn't care about the guards or the Queen Mother or anything else. I just wanted to escape. I don't know how I survived. I wandered the forest for days before a kind old man found me and took me in. I never went back to the palace. I heard later that the Queen Mother and her daughters ruled for many more years, but strange things kept happening. Servants disappeared. Crops failed. People whispered about curses, but no one dared to speak against them. I stayed with the old man for weeks, too scared to go back to my family or even think about the palace. But one day, I decided I couldn't live in fear anymore. I told the old man everything. He listened quietly, his wrinkled face grim. When I finished, he nodded and went to a small chest in the corner of his hut. "I have something for this," he said, pulling out a pouch filled with strange powders and herbs. The Queen Mother and her daughters may be powerful, but they are not invincible. Their power comes from darkness, and darkness always fears the light. The old man taught me how to make a special potion, a mixture of herbs, ash, and something he called light root. Scatter this near their clay pot, he said. It will break their connection to whatever they serve. Without it, their power will wither. I didn't know if I was brave enough to face them again, but I didn't have a choice. I had to stop them before they could hurt anyone else. That night, I snuck back into the palace. My heart pounded in my chest as I crept through the familiar hallways. The whispers were louder than ever, echoing like a twisted song. I followed them to the courtyard, where the Queen Mother and her daughters were gathered again. The clay pot sat in the center of the circle, smoke rising from it. I waited until their chanting reached a fever pitch, then darted forward and threw the powder onto the pot. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pot cracked, and a blinding white light burst out, swallowing the smoke and sending the Queen Mother and her daughters sprawling. Their screams were like nothing I'd ever heard, high-pitched and filled with rage and fear. When the light faded, the pot was nothing but shards on the ground, and the Queen Mother and her daughters were changed. They looked frail, their once beautiful faces hollow and aged. "You've ruined us," the Queen Mother hissed, her voice trembling. "Do you know what you've done?" "I've stopped you," I said, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. "You can't hurt anyone anymore." The guards rushed in, drawn by the commotion. At first, they hesitated, unsure of what to do. But when they saw the Queen Mother and her daughters powerless, they seized them and locked them away. The people of the palace were free at last. I returned to my family, who wept with joy when they saw me. The old man came to live with us, and the village prospered under new, kinder leadership. Sometimes, I still hear whispers in the wind, but now they are faint and powerless. I know the darkness is gone, and in its place, there is light.